Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read, and today I'm going to be doing my Reindeer Readathon wrap up, aka my December wrap up. So, the Reindeer Readathon is over. I still have to calculate the points as at the time that I'm recording this. I have not released who has won yet, but it is finished. December is over, and so now we have to go over all the books that I read for the Reindeer Readathon. And I will say I'm pretty proud of myself because this year I read more than I have in previous years for Reindeer Readathon. So I actually feel like I brought the worth to my team by bringing in those points. So I'm super pumped about that. And it was actually a pretty good reading month. Like, I didn't really have too many bad reads or anything. So yeah, that was even better. I'm also super excited that the Reindeer Readathon was such a success this year. We had over 1,000 participants. It was so much fun, and I'm super excited to do round 5 of it next year. I can't wait to get together again with all you guys and have a great time. And also, anybody that is in the Reindeer Readathon Discord, that stays open 24/7. It's open all year. So, like, you can continue to chat with people that you met during the readathon in the Discord and just stay active. Anyways, let's get into the books that I read for the readathon. And yeah, I'll tell you what prompts they were for and what I felt about them. So, the first book I read was for Dasher, and this one was Soul of the Deep. So, this is the second book in the duology. The first one is Skin of the Sea, and this was actually sent to me by Penguin Random House to read this for the readathon. So thank you to Penguin for sending this to me, and I actually really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a good wrap up to this duology, and it kind of like just picks up right where the other one left off. You're thrown into it, and there's a lot of like really cool like water mythology in this, which I really enjoyed. It has to do a lot with like mermaids because that's kind of what the like duology is about. But I will say that a lot of this book also takes place on land, and there's some pretty cool like creatures that come into play. There's some really interesting battles and a lot of stuff that is just really fun. I did find that there was a part of this book that was really easy to figure out, and that's why it didn't get 5 stars and only got 4 stars, is because it's supposed to be like a big twist, but the big twist was very obvious to me. And then when it was revealed that that was the twist, I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, other than that, I really enjoyed the book. That was like the only part I didn't like about it. And that's the only reason it's not a 5 stars. But yeah, I thought it was a fun one. And I'm glad to say I have now finished this duology. Then the next one I read was With Your Friends. And this was for the dancer prompt. And so this one was following a boy who is kind of going through some like home troubles, and they kind of meet up with this new group of friends that take him in as like one of their own, and they just kind of explore life together during high school, get to know each other more. He wants to get to know another member of this friend group because he's like a very quiet to himself kind of guy, and so the main character of this book is very similar. They're kind of like kindred spirits, and so he like finds solace in this person, and so the two of them kind of connect. And yeah, I would say that this book is like an indie version of, well, I mean, the other version of this is indie too, but The Perks of Being a Wallflower, that's what I was kind of like thinking of when I read this book. I will say this book doesn't get as dark as Perks of Being a Wallflower, but it has very similar themes and vibes to it. It's just essentially that he joins a friend group, they get to know each other, and it kind of goes from there. It's a very much like coming of age story, I guess you could say. But yeah, I would give this one a 3.5 out of 5. Then for Comet, I read Sunreach. This is the uncovered hardback. Sunreach is a novella in the Skyward series. It's essentially like book 2.1. So it's following the actions right after the second book. And so in this novella, you get to see like more of the side characters that weren't really that present in the second book, because the second book kind of takes place in a whole other area from like the main planet of detritus where they are during the Skyward like beginning series. And so you get to jump back to these characters that you didn't get to see too much in the second book, and it was great because I missed these characters. You kind of like form a bond with these characters in the first book, and then in the second book you don't really get to see them that much, so I was really happy to get to see them. You also get to learn more about FM, as like FM's the main character, that's their like radio call sign, and Rig is part of like the engineering team, but he kind of like started out in the flight team, and so you get to learn a lot more about those two characters. And yeah, they're just characters that I've liked throughout the series, so it was really fun to get more of them. There's not much more I can say without like being spoilery, because there's lots of things involved in this novella that tie into book 2, so I can't really go into depth on it. But yeah, I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it quite a bit. Then next up for Cupid, I read Rivalry at Play. And so this was a Harlequin novel, as you can see, about two people who in high school were opponents. So essentially they were like academic opponents. They were always the two that were competing against each other for like all the awards, all the like titles, so like valedictorian, all that stuff. And one of the big things was that they had a chess competition that the main character, Alexandra, beat the other character, and his name is Jackson. She beat him, and that was like a big thing that kind of like divided them in high school. So then she comes back to her hometown to visit with family to help work with them on a law case because she's now an attorney. And she shows up and Jackson's there because he has his like own PR business, I believe, in their hometown, which is in like Texas area. And so the two of them reconnect and things happen from there. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of like a sucker for these books. Like, I know they have the stereotypes of them, but like, I'm kind of a sucker for them. They're just like Hallmark movies, and I love those corny Hallmark movies. They are just so fun to watch. I know it's such a like recycled plot, but I don't know. There's just something about them I find really entertaining. And so I enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. I feel like most of these books range around a 3 out of 5 stars because they're all kind of like the same thing. But nonetheless, they're fun to read. And I feel so productive when I finish them because they're like small books. So it feels like I'm like powering through things when realistically I'm just finishing a book that's like 200 some pages. But yeah, I thought this one was a lot of fun. And yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Speaking of Harlequin, for Blitzen, I read How to Fake a Wedding Date. And I found this one to be a lot of fun as well. So this one is following a main character who has to go to a wedding, but they don't have a wedding date. And they're kind of known as like this social pariah because the last person that they were engaged to, she left them on their wedding day because she decided that it wasn't for her. And so now she's been kind of like labeled in the media as like the undateable person because if you date this person, like she's going to break your heart. And so she ends up teaming up with her brother's best friend to go to a wedding, and he's going to be like her boyfriend, but he's like a fake boyfriend for her to just get through this wedding of her best friend and then go from there. But of course, they start to get feelings for each other, and they also had a past, so things get a little muddy, and yeah, it's one of those classic rom-com stories. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 as well. And yeah, I would definitely read so many more of these books because they're just so entertaining. I don't really feel like I'm using a lot of brain power when reading these, but they're just a very refreshing, like relaxing break to me, and I like that. And then the last one I managed to read for the readathon was for Rudolph, and I read Rat Queens. So this was a really fun graphic novel. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons style, where there's like a group of people that are a team and they go out on missions to do things for like their village and stuff. So they're going out on like these quests, and this is following an all-female group that is just awesome. It kind of like brings the like vulgarity of like Sega into it, and these women are just so much fun and just ridiculous, and they get up to these like random shenanigans that get them in trouble. And yeah, I had such a great time with this first one. I thought it was hilarious. I would definitely read more of these. So yeah, I think I gave this one either a 4 out of 5 or it might have been a 5 out of 5 because I did really enjoy it. I thought it was so much fun. So yeah, I definitely want to read more in this series. And then lastly, this wasn't for the readathon, but I read Hell Followed With Us. This was for the Phase and Gaze book club that I did not make it back in time for the actual live show for this because I was trying to catch a flight home from my trip to San Francisco, and that flight got delayed. and then I missed my connecting flight, so that was a whole ordeal. So I wasn't actually here for that live show, but I'll give you my thoughts on it now. This is essentially following a character who is trying to escape a cult. So there's like a cult of people that labeled themselves as like the angels, and they are kind of like this bio weapon. And so they are trying to escape this cult, and it's them on the run at the beginning of the book. So they eventually, well, I mean, the beginning of the book, they escape, and then they get taken in by this group of LGBTQ plus teens, and they are hiding out at an LGBTQ plus shelter that they are kind of like avoiding the angel cult. And so from there, the story goes with them trying to protect this person, and this person is also trying to not let on too much about what they are, because they don't want the group that is kind of like taking them in to see them any differently. And yeah, it goes on a whole other plot line that just gets pretty intense. There's a lot of like graphic violence in this. I would say that this book is pretty gruesome, which I wasn't expecting it to be like that intense. But yeah, I ended up giving this one, I think, a 3.5 out of 5. I thought that it was kind of slow at parts. Like, I usually like survivalist kind of stories like this, and this is very much like a dystopian world. And I do understand like some of the religious aspects of this kind of checked out, because I've like religious cults are definitely a thing, and they can get pretty intense. I found that some of this was just like too intense though. Like it was a lot to deal with. But I thought there was great representation in this. Like that whole group of teens, they all were a different part of the LGBTQ plus spectrum, and I thought that was really cool that we got to see all those different perspectives and how they worked together to kind of like survive as a little community together. I thought it was really cool. But yeah, it was pretty action packed, and 3.5. And those are all the books that I read in the month of December. I'm sad that the readathon's over, but I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. And yeah, I think it was a pretty decent reading month. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books that I just talked about. Also, tell me what your favorite book is that you read in December. If you guys want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Coffee page, which I'll put in the description down below, as well as a link to buy my bookmarks. You guys know the drill. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you're notified when I post new videos. I post my videos on Mondays and Thursdays. Until next time, keep on reading.